Hey readers, welcome back to another episode of Not Reading for Content. We are here today with a different episode for you guys with a little bit of a sneak peek behind the scenes of how we will be selecting our next read for our book club. This comes on the back of us changing the podcast a little bit and having the book club every other month instead of every month. It gives us a little bit more free time to dig into how and what books we would like to read, which ones we think that we will enjoy the most and bring you guys the most enjoyment. And we actually created a little game to do this. And so that's what you guys are going to see today. The game has 3 rounds. And the first round will start with both Leandra and I giving 6 recommendations each to each other. These recommendations are reads that we have found via various means of searching the interwebs to try and see what we think that will give us a good time, hopefully a win, fingers crossed. And you guys get to see our process of thinking through. So with those 6, we give them in groups of 2. So I will give Leandra 2 of my recommendations, maybe that have something to do with each other, but they don't have to. And then Leandra will kick one of them to the curb and we will keep one of them. And we'll go back and forth and do that until 3 of my books are left and 3 of Leandra's books are left. So that's what you guys will see in this first round. So Leandra, what are your first 2 recommendations for me?
Ooh, this one is going to be interesting and hilarious because it's very Leandra coded. I recognize that. I recognize that I'm being biased in my 2 options. And Danny, you're going to have to narrow this down. So the first option that I'm providing you is The Sittaford Mystery by Agatha Christie. This is a golden age mystery by the Queen of Crime herself. Obviously, Danny, you've been dabbling into Christie's work. Recently, you picked up Murder at the Vicarage, I'm aware of, and so I thought this could be really fun for the 2 of us. This is a mystery I haven't read by Christie. I've read about a third of her canon. This is one of the ones that I haven't touched yet, and this is going to be the synopsis, so we'll see if it, intrigues you. The Sittaford Mystery is Dame Agatha at her most intriguing as a seance in a snowbound house predicts a particularly grisly murder. In a remote house in the middle of Dartmoor, 6 shadowy figures huddle around a table for a seance. Tension rises as the spirits spell out a chilling message. Captain Trevelyan, dead. Murder. Is this black magic or simply a macabre joke? The only way to be certain is to locate Captain Trevelyan. Unfortunately, his home is 6 miles away, and with snowdrifts blocking the roads, someone will have to make the journey on foot. Dun, 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 dun. So that's the first option. Golden Age mystery, snowbound, so very perfect for the wintry month of December. And then, if you didn't already guess, the next option is another Agatha Christie title because that's the theme of this pairing. I've decided to create the theme, and it's all surrounding Christie herself. This one I have read before. So I'm offering to reread this if you're intrigued to read it, Danny. And that is And Then There Were None. Now, this is a very well-known thriller. Those that, most people who have read Agatha Christie, this is sometimes what they start with, especially Americans. And it's really not typical of Agatha Christie, in my opinion, and yet she's so well known for it. But here is the synopsis for this island setting mystery. First, there were 10, a curious assortment of strangers summoned as weekend guests to a private island off the coast of Devon. Their host, an eccentric millionaire, unknown to all of them, is nowhere to be found. All that the guests have in common is a wicked past they're unwilling to reveal, and a secret that will seal their fate. For each has been marked for murder. One by one, they fall prey. Before the weekend is out, there will be none, and only the dead are above suspicion. I feel like it's not set in winter, but I feel like it kind of gives that feeling of wanting to just like curl up in your safe home while you read about people dying left, right, and center.
Yes, I agree. I think that's true for a lot of mysteries for me. I like to read mysteries in the winter. I think it's fun.
I agree. So those are the 2 options for you, both Agatha Christie. The first one, The Sittaford Mystery, set in winter, and Then There Were None, a chilling thriller, a different type of a cold experience.
I thought it was going to be an easy pick when you read the first one. because I was like, okay, well, I want to read that. So that's what I would choose. But then you gave me another Christie. Hmm. Okay. I think I'm still going to choose the first one. What did you say the title of it was?
Ooh, yeah, it's called The Sittaford Mystery.
Sittaford Mystery. The reason I'm
Yeah.
going to choose that one is because it is in a wintry setting and we're moving into winter. And I have a feeling that when I read and then there were none, I'm gonna be spoiled for certain things just because of how popular it has been, and so I think for the podcast, I think I would prefer to have a book that I don't already know some of the plot, I think.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense, and I'm actually really excited. I would have been happy either way, and not I feel like I'm acting like this one won everything when we have so much more of the game to play, but I'm excited about this, and for those who are listening, if you don't recognize that title and you're like, "I know a lot of Agatha Christie, what is this?" Another version of it is Murder at Hazelmoor. So, because Agatha Christie has, published for a very long time and her editions are worldwide, there may be different titles, but those are the two most well known for that. But okay, so the first pairing has been split into one. We have the Sittaford Mystery moving forward into round two, and it's time to introduce our next pairing. And I'm going to pass it off to you, Danny, to introduce the next two options.
So this first one, I do have categories for the other two or the other two pairings that I have, but for this one, I'm just gonna call it my miscellaneous because these two books I wanted to include, but they don't really go together. I do have an idea of which one you're gonna choose, but I think you'll be interested in both of them. So the first one is the Cybernetic Tea Shop, and it is a cozy sci-fi. And I know we've loved some cozy sci-fi recently, so I'm hoping that this one will be a win. It's one that's been on my TBR for a really long time, and I just haven't gotten to it. So the synopsis says Clara Gutierrez is an AI repair technician and a wanderer. Her childhood with her migrant worker family has left her uncomfortable with lingering for too long, so she moves from place to place across retro futuristic America. Sai is a fully autonomous robot, older than the law declaring her kind illegal due to ethical concerns. She is at best out of place in society and at worst vilified. She continues to run the tea shop previously owned by her long dead master, lost in memories of the past, struggling to fulfill her master's dream for the shop while slowly breaking down. They meet by chance, but as they begin to spend time together, they both start to wrestle with the concept of moving on. I think it sounds fantastic. Okay, so that's my first option. Very
It's
cozy.
a good one.
It seems to
It's a
have like
strong one.
it seems to have some themes of grief, maybe. So I am kind of excited about that. The next one that I have for you, I know is one that you've heard of before, and I know it's an author that you've read before, I think. So I'm hoping you haven't read it.
Okay.
Have you read A Lot's Away by Darcy Little
No.
Badger?
No, it's you know what? I've put it on many a TBR and just
Okay.
haven't gotten to it.
This is the one I was a little worried about because I was like, I know I've heard you mention it before, but so A Lot's Away is the other option. It is fantasy. It's a fantasy mystery, and it is YA, maybe middle grade. I know it's younger. So that's I was a little hesitant about it that way, but I've heard really good things. And I do think that it'll be a story that we will enjoy. So here's the synopsis. Imagine an America very similar to our own. It's got homework, best friends, and pistachio ice cream. There are some differences. This America has been shaped dramatically by magic, monsters, knowledge, and the legends of its people, those indigenous and those not. Some of those forces are charmingly everyday, like the ability to make an orb of light appear or travel across the world through rings of fungi. But other forces are less charming and should never see the light of day. Alatsue lives in this slightly stranger America. She can raise the ghosts of dead animals, a skill passed down through generations. Her beloved cousin has been murdered in a town that wants no prying eyes, but she is going to do more than pry. The picture perfect facade of Willoughby masks gruesome secrets, and she will rely on her wits, skills, and friends to tear off the mask and protect her family. So I guess these two books do have some elements in common. We have maybe some coziness. I think this one's slightly less cozy than the Cybernetic Tea Shop, but I don't know. I'm excited about both. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, they both sound really interesting. They both seem to have a significant emphasis on family, and there will probably be tones of grief in both. You mentioned that with like the cybernetic tea shop, and then obviously when it comes to the loss of her sister, and I think you said it was her sister, and her trying to figure out the like who murdered or at least what happened to her. Grief is 100% going to be a part of it. So unintentionally, that might be the theme of this miscellaneous grouping. I will say that there's one that I'm leaning towards more than the other. And it's not that I don't want to read both books. I just immediately was like, yes, this is what I want. And that is the cybernetic tea shop. I just love like AI and robotic humanoid characters. I'm definitely in like cozy sci-fi era, especially it. You knew this is what I was going to use. Now the YA title, because it's YA, obviously that would give me pause. That's probably why I haven't picked it up. But it does sound really interesting. I love the idea of infusing indigenous folklore into our understanding of like fantasy of America. And so that's going to have to be something we maybe revisit. But for now, I'm going to have the cybernetic tea shop move on to the next round.
I'm excited. I can't wait to read that one. I mean, it's been on my TBR for so long. I do really want to read A Lot's Away, but the cybernetic tea shop is the one that I thought you would pick. So,
hee hee. I'm so obvious.
What's your next category for me?
Oh, we're switching gears. We're switching gears, not significantly, but enough where I feel like it's also surprising that I'm the one offering these titles, but one has been on my own TBR for quite some time. I've borrowed it from Libby multiple times and returned it, and I don't even know if I've ever told you about it. It's not a secret book, but I don't know why. I don't know if you'll know it or not. I think you probably will. But the theme, weirdly enough, is historical romance.
What?
I know. Who am I? What is this? Someone has taken over my body. But one leans historical fantasy romance, and then the other one is I'll just tell you what I know of it is that it's historical romance, but there is time travel involved. Something's happened, and so we'll get into that title when we get to it. But this first option is called Empire of Shadows. It is by Jacqueline Benson, and it's the first in the Raiders of the Arcana series. And you'll understand. I think there's more going on than simply a romance. It's just, I think it's labeled as romance. The synopsis says, nice Victorian ladies don't run off to find legendary lost cities. One trifling little arrest shouldn't have cost Ellie Mallory her job, but it's only the latest in a line of injustices facing any educated woman with archaeological ambitions. When Ellie stumbles across the map to a mysterious ancient city, she knows she's holding her chance to revolutionize pre-Columbian history. There's just one teensy complication. A ruthless villain wants it, and Ellie is all that stands in his way. To race him to the ruins and to avoid being violently disposed of, she needs the help of maverick surveyor Adam Bates, a snake wrangling rogue who can't seem to keep his dratted shirt on. And it continues. I'll leave it there. But the reason why I was attracted to this title is the cover, I think, is stunning. It kind of screams my type of vibe. I'm wondering if this is going to lean light academia simply because she's also an archaeologist. It's set in like Victorian times. I love that it seems to suggest this idea of revolutionizing pre-Columbian history. So we do have this, setting of South America, to my understanding. So I feel like it's a little bit out of the box. And yes, there's going to be a romance, but I think it's going to be a bit more adventurous and a bit more lightly academic. So that's option number one. Option number two just got on my radar. And yes, it mainly is because as soon as I knew I wanted to suggest Empire of Shadows, I needed something to compare it to because I'm so dependent on a theme. It's crazy. But this one looks super fun as well. It is called The Austen Affair by Madeline Bell. This just came out in 2025. So it's a new release as well. And it says, two feuding co-stars in a Jane Austen film adaptation accidentally travel back in time to the Regency era in this delightfully clever and riotously funny debut. Tess Bright just scored her dream role starring in an adaptation of Jane Austen's Northanger Abbey. It's not just the role of a lifetime, but it's also her last chance to prove herself as a serious actress. No easy feat after being fired from her last TV gig. And more importantly, it's her opportunity to honor her mom, who was the biggest fan of Jane Austen ever. But one thing is standing in Tess's way. Well, one very tall, annoyingly handsome person, actually, Hugh Balfour. A serious British method actor, Hugh wants nothing to do with Tess, whose Teen Choice Awards somehow don't quite compare to his BAFTA nominations. Hugh is a type A, no-nonsense Royal Academy prodigy, whereas Tess is big-hearted, a little reckless, and admittedly kind of a mess. But the film needs chemistry, and Tess's career depends on it. Sparks fly, but not in the way Tess hoped. When an electrical accident sends the two feuding co-stars back in time to Jane Austen's era, 200 years in the past with only each other to rely on, Tess and Hugh need to ad-lib their way through the Regency period in order to make it back home and hopefully not screw up history along the way. But if a certain someone looks particularly dashing in those 19th century breeches, well, Tess won't be complaining. A wickedly funny, delightfully charming story, The Austen Affair is a tribute to Jane Austen, second chances, and love across the space-time continuum. Yeah, it just seems like a very fun, light type of comedy. It gives me just the kind of rom-coms of almost the 2000s, 2010s, not Groundhog's Day-esque, but that kind of suddenly they find themselves stuck in Regency era, and obviously comedy of manners is going to ensue because they're not going to know the etiquette. They're probably going to throw in like the word TikTok and no one's going to understand what they're talking about. I feel like you could laugh at it, but it also could go disastrously wrong. So who knows which one you're going to choose. I feel like we all know which one you're probably going to choose, but you could surprise me.
I think my choice is going to be The Empire of the Shadows.
Mm-hmm.
I am a little scared of the second one because of Jane Austen being such a big part of it. Not that I don't like Jane Austen, but I am not super well versed, and so I do think that some of that would be lost on me. I also have recently read, which I know it's completely different because it's not supposed to be funny, but The Ministry of Time, where we have some time travel, and it had some relationship stuff within it, and I just didn't like the way that it was handled. So I feel like I'm very picky on time travel with romance. So that also has me a little leery. And the first book, I mean, as soon as they said like lost magical like cities, I was like, okay, sign me up for that one. I also think that it kind of reminded me, and I don't know why, it kind of reminded me of Soulless a little bit by Jill
Yes.
Carriger. And so it intrigues me. I think that one's going to be good.
Oh, for sure. I'm glad you brought that up. I was thinking, so I didn't necessarily think of Soulless, but I was also having like almost A Natural History of Dragons, Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia, like that type of element where those two have some romantic elements to them, but I'm hoping that the academic driven woman, in this historical time will just, take us away. So we'll see. But all right, good to know. Now is the time for you to offer your second pairing.
So my second pairing is sci-fi. So I have two sci-fi options for you. This is one that I do have a book that I have started, but I have not gotten to finish it. And so I did still include it. This isn't a reread though, because I've only read about 10% of the story. But I do think that it's one you will enjoy. And so if I can tag you along with me, maybe I'll actually get to this book because it is one that I have on my physical collection as well. And it's by an author that I know you want to read, or no, you have read before, Ancillary Justice by Ann Leckie.
Yes.
Which book did you read by Ann Leckie?
So I ended up reading the Raven Tower.
Yes, that's what it was.
And I loved it. Now that was one of her fantasy options. And the reason why I read it, you know this, Danny, was as reconnaissance for Battle of the Booktuber to possibly recommend to you. And then I got scared, but I loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars. So, okay, you've obviously started off on a great option, but please tell me more.
Yes, so this is the synopsis. On a remote, icy planet, so we have some wintry vibes as well, the soldier known as Breck is drawing closer to completing her quest. Once, she was a Justice of Torin, a colossal starship with an artificial intelligence linking thousands of soldiers in the service of the Wretch, the empire that conquered the galaxy. Now, an act of treachery has ripped it all away, leaving her with one fragile human body, unanswered questions, and a burning desire for vengeance. I think it sounds
Ooh.
fantastic. And I could tell you that the first 10%, I didn't stop because I wasn't enjoying myself. I stopped because the first time I started it, I was reading it on audio and I just wasn't getting everything that I wanted. I knew I was missing pieces and I was loving the writing style. And so I bought a physical copy and I just haven't gotten back to it yet. So I'm really excited about this one.
Me too, but I mean, you could surprise me with a second option. It's not a guarantee yet, friends.
I do think the second option is one that you might go for. It is definitely one that I am trying to get you to tag along with me so I continue it. Or not continue, that I actually start it, because it's been a series that's been recommended to me multiple times, and one that I know is on your list at some point, and that is Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey.
Yes. Oh, you did such a great job.
I figured my sci-fi recommendations, I was like, I feel like these are this is gonna be a hard decision. I think I have an idea of which one you're gonna go with, but we'll read the synopsis first and then you can choose. The synopsis says humanity has colonized the solar system, Mars, the moon, the asteroid belt, and beyond, but the stars are still out of reach. Jim Holden is an executive officer of an ice miner making runs from the rings of Saturn to the mining stations of the belt. When he and his crew stumble upon a derelict ship, they find themselves in possession of a secret they never wanted, a secret that someone is willing to kill for, and kill on a scale unfathomable to Jim and his crew. War is brewing in the system unless he can find out who left the ship and why. So it's a little bit of a sci-fi mystery.
Indeed. And another, I mean, like Ice Miner,
Yeah.
both have this kind of wintry. You did such a good job with like the wintry themes. Oh my goodness. So it's between Ancillary Justice and Leviathan Wakes. This is an interesting pairing because one is obviously an author that I have loved before, as you've mentioned, different genre. So, you know, who knows? And you've had a little bit of a taste test, so you kind of know what the vibe is. Meanwhile, yeah, Leviathan Wakes, I've never read anything by that author before, but I feel like I should have by now as someone who really enjoys sci-fi. So, uh, the question is which one to go with. I think I'm going to help you out in continuing the book that you've started. And we're going to go with Ancillary Justice because I really, really want to get into this author's sci fi as well. So, I mean, both were great options, though.
Yeah. I kind of figured you would choose that one. Although both of them, I would have been happy with either one of them. So, yay. What's your next category?
Ooh, my next category. I'm a little bit nervous because there's something you mentioned recently in this episode where I was like, huh, okay, she probably isn't going to choose this one, which is interesting. And the theme for this one, I also chose as sci-fi. So why are we leaning so sci-fi? I don't know, it might mean something. But the first option that I have is one that only recently got on my radar. I think it's because it might have been published in the UK first and then the US. It was in a couple special boxes, but you could pre-order the book here in the US this year, but it has a 2024 pub date. And that is High Voltage. This is by Chris Sudgen and Jen Sudgen. So we have two authors together that are related in some way. Did I look into it at all? No. So maybe they're married, maybe they're siblings, cousins, father, daughter, mother, son, who knows? But I guess it doesn't really matter. And this is described as a historical sci fi steampunk type of book, which is quite exciting. The description says 1887, London, but not as you know it. The Industrial Revolution went further than anyone could have imagined, and the sprawling, chaotic metropolis of even greater London spreads across the southern half of England. The immense tower casts electricity through the sky, powering the mind boggling mechanisms of the city. The engineer army of Isambard Kingdom Brunel swarms across the capital, building, demolishing, and rebuilding whatever they see fit. Queen Victoria is recovering nicely from her 11th assassination, ruling with the dignity that comes from striking terror into anyone who sees the unholy union of human and machine that one has become. And at the heart of all of this sits the country's first private investigation agency. Archibald Fleet and Clara Entwistle hoped things would pick up quickly for their new enterprise. No one is taking them seriously, but their break will come soon. Definitely, probably. Meanwhile, police are baffled by a series of impossible bank robberies. With no trace left of the thieves and nothing to connect each break in to the next, their resources are absorbed by the case, which means that when a woman witnesses a kidnapping, Fleet Entwistle Private Investigations is the only place she can turn for help. They're more than happy to oblige. But why would this man be a target of kidnappers? As Clara and Fleet dig into the mystery, things go deeper than they could ever have anticipated. Dun, 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 dun. And I'm pretty sure this is a book that may or may not have been inspired by a podcast. And we know that I'm usually kind of into those, which is quite exciting. So that's the first option, a steampunk, alternate history, Victorian era mystery. Pretty fun. And the second option that I have is in a similar vein. Sci-fi is historical in what's going on. The one thing I'm a little bit worried about may come to light in the description, but it is called Just One Damned Thing After Another by Jodi Taylor. Now, this one, weirdly, is kind of similar to your situation with Ancillary Justice. I started this, was having a grand old time. I was buddy reading it with someone else. They were not having a grand old time. They DNF'd, and I realized I really just didn't have time to read it on my own, and so I put it down. But I've been itching to get back to it because it is so, so fun. I can tell you that right now. And the description says, history is just one damned thing after another. Behind the seemingly innocuous facade of St. Mary's, a different kind of historical research is taking place. They don't do time travel. They investigate major historical events in contemporary time. Maintaining the appearance of harmless eccentrics is not always within their power, especially given their propensity for causing loud explosions when things get too quiet. Meet the disaster magnets of St. Mary's Institute of Historical Research as they ricochet around history. Their aim is to observe and document, to try and find the answers to many of history's unanswered questions, and not to die in the process. But one wrong move and history will fight back, to the death. And as they soon discover, it's not just history they're fighting. Follow the catastrophe curve from 11th century London to World War I, and from the Cretaceous period to the destruction of the Great Library of Alexandria. For wherever historians go, chaos is sure to follow in their wake.
Ooh.
Yes.
So the time traveling component.
Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous about it, but it doesn't say anything about a romance. I think it's just a funny time. So I'm wondering if you'll let it slide, but high voltage is also another option.
I think both of these sound interesting. I think time travel can work for me. I just think I'm a little hesitant about it because of the fact that Ministry of Time was such a popular book, and it just didn't work
Mhm.
for me because of how the time traveling worked. And to be fair, I should also say that was pulling people forward in time,
Oh,
not
true.
going backward in time, and so I find it interesting, definitely, and that author is one I've wanted to give a try. That book is actually on my TBR, so I do recognize that title, but I haven't gotten to it yet. I do remember when you were reading it, and you were like, "Okay, this is not the right time if I'm reading it with somebody who dislikes it," 'cause there's you always have to think about how that's going to impact your reading as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And more so, really what the situation was, she was going to read it and I wanted to read it. And so I was going to squeeze it in for the month.
Yeah.
It was a book I shouldn't have picked up then because I already had too many books on my plate. And so then when she abandoned it, I was like, well, I'm glad I really want to read it. But, I was already squeezing it in for her and I'm not going to keep reading it by myself.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I was reading it with the person, like they were the reason. So that's pretty much the backstory for that.
Yeah. And that can impact it as well if you're rushing it too or trying to make it fit somewhere it wasn't intended to fit. That can impact your rating as well. So, yeah, I think it was probably a good decision to wait and hold off. I do think out of and these two are probably the closest of the choices that I've had as far as the ones that I'm interested in. But I think I am gonna have to go with High Voltage because it sounds, I don't know why, but they sound kind of like a hot mess. And I love a steampunk sci-fi. Like, I just think it's very fun. So that automatically caught my interest. And yeah, they just sound a little bit like a hot mess. And I would like to be along for the ride to witness the different antics of that. I think it sounds very fun. So I think that one's going to be my choice.
Ooh, very exciting. What's interesting is this is just an observation. You have selected among my 6 with the pairings, the first one I've optioned in each pairing.
Oh,
Weird.
I have.
There's
That is
nothing, no
weird.
significance to it. It's just like a weird thing that you've done.
That is strange. Huh. I think you've already broken that. Have you? No, you haven't.
What are we doing? What does it all mean?
And I think you're gonna choose the first one for the next one too, but I'll let you decide.
We'll see. Mhm.
Those are fighting words. Maybe I'll sway you towards the second one, but I think the first one is gonna be the one you choose, and this is why. This is my fantasy mystery category. I saved the best for last.
Yee.
I do think that I kind of scoured the webs. I knew which one I wanted to offer, and then I needed to find another one. I do think they're both, viable options. I think that you will enjoy both of them, but there is one of them in particular that I think you're going to instantly be like, "Yes, that one." So, the first one is called The Imaginary Corpse, and it is by Tyler Hayes, and this is what the description has to say. A dinosaur detective in the land of unwanted ideas battles trauma, anxiety, and the first serial killer of imaginary friends. Most ideas fade away when we're done with them. Some we love enough to become real. But what about the ones we love and walk away from? Tippy the Triceratops was once a girl's imaginary friend, a dinosaur detective who would help her make sense of the world. But when her father died, Tippy fell into the still real, the underbelly of the imagination, where discarded ideas go when they're too real to disappear. Now he passes time doing detective work for other unwanted ideas until Tippy runs into the man in the coat, a nightmare monster who can do the impossible, kill an idea permanently. Now, Tippy must overcome his own trauma to solve the case before there's nothing left but imaginary corpses.
Oh my gosh. I mean, again, out the gate, it's a good option. And that one, I don't know if you knew this, but this was put on my radar by someone else who was reading it for a readathon that they were on my team. I was co-hosting, and as soon as they offered it, I was like, that sounds amazing. And I know for a fact I have it saved as a favorite on Hoopla because I know it's optioned there because I was like, I don't want to forget this title. So, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, it's already been on my radar, and I do wanna read it.
I ran across it, and as soon as I read A Dinosaur Detective, I was like, "Oh, well, putting that on the list."
Yes! I love dinosaurs, I love detectives, put them together, oh my gosh, it's my dream.
Okay, so that's the first option. I know it comes in strong, but I do think the second option will be good as well. And it has a setting that I don't read from very often. It's actually set in Egypt. So that is interesting in and of itself. This is a Master of Jinn, which I know you've heard of before.
Mhm.
And I am intrigued by this title. It's been on several of my TBRs, and I just have never picked it up. It also has a couple of novellas that go along with it, but this is the full-length novel that is in the series. The description of this one says, Cairo, 1912. Though Fatma is the youngest woman working for the Ministry of Alchemy, Enchantments, and Supernatural Entities, she certainly is not a rookie, especially after preventing the destruction of the universe last summer. So when someone murders a secret brotherhood dedicated to one of the most famous men in history, Al-Jahiz, Agent Fatma is called to the case. Al-Jahiz transformed the world 40 years ago when he opened up the veil between magical and mundane realms before vanishing into the unknown. This murderer claims to be Al-Jahiz returned to condemn the modern age for its social oppressions. His dangerous magical abilities instigate unrest in the streets of Cairo that threaten to spill over onto the global stage.
Ooh. Yeah, no, you're right. That's another really good contender. Uh, I love a historical setting, this idea of like 1912, Egypt. It's also by P. Djeli Clark, which not long ago I read the Dead Cattail Assassins and ate that up. Like that was so fun. I really loved that book. And so, ooh, but Dino Detective, they both sound really, really good. I think what I'm gonna go with, it's gonna be a bit of an upset. I'm gonna go with Master of Gin, and it's only. I know what is happening.
I'm shocked.
I'm suggesting historical romance, and then I'm turning down a Dino Detective. What is going on? Am I okay? Do I need more sleep? Because I'm not who I should be. But I think that A Master of Gin is one of those titles that is just so well loved, and
Yeah,
the two of us should be able to say that we read it. We should have experienced this author and that title long ago. So
yeah,
that's where my head is at, and I think it will probably be easier to access,
yeah.
regarding, compared to the other one, the imaginary corpse. Even though that one, we're definitely going to revisit that title because that sounds amazing. But I think A Master of Gin just makes more sense for the moment.
Sounds good. I am astounded, but I'm happy. I do really want to get to Master of Jen, but I thought that was like a shoo-in that you were going to choose Imaginary Corpse.
I know, but I decided to go the route of the rational option, I suppose, rather than I went with my brain and not with my heart. Will I regret it? Maybe. I might regret it, but then we'll just have to bring it back for another round of this, and maybe it'll make it next time.
Maybe. Speaking of another round, we are at the end of round one. So we need to pause for a second. We're going to be with you in just a minute. You guys won't even know that we're gone, but we are going to take a minute to adjust and think about how round two is going to go ahead for us. Round two will be very quick. What we will do in round two, just so you guys can prepare yourselves, is we each are left with three options of our own that have been chosen by the other person. And when we come back to you, we will have made the decision of which one of our own recommendations we are going to kick to the curb for the final round. So, in just a minute, we're going to come back.
And so commences round two. What we're going to do with this one, after we've deliberated, each of us knows which one we're going to remove from our current list. But first and foremost, just so we have all the titles in one place, each of us is going to list off the three titles that remained from the face-off pairings, and then we will disclose the one that we're letting go, so you know which two are making it to the final round from each of our lists. Danny, how about you decide first? You go ahead, list off the three so that we have the titles fresh in our mind, and then reveal to us which one you're letting go.
So, my three options that are left in the running are the Cybernetic Tea Shop by Meredith Katz. This was the cozy sci fi option that we had. We also had Ancillary Justice by Anne Leckie, which was like an adventure, sci-fi, kind of futuristic. And then we had A Master of Jen by P. Djeli Clark, which was a fantasy, a historical fantasy, if you will. And this was hard. I thought this was going to be easier for me to get rid of one, but I do think I'm gonna have to cancel out a Master of Jen because the other 2 are just screaming at me, which is really sad because the Master of Jen has been on my TBR, I think, the longest out of all of these. Maybe I'll get to it on my own, but I'm gonna move forward the other 2, I think.
For shame. How dare you? But you know what? We got to follow our heart. So understandably, gonna have to put the Master of Gin aside, but we still got 2 great options that are in your camp. And now it's time to figure out what other 2 are joining them. So for me, we have the Sittaford Mystery by Agatha Christie, Golden Age mystery set in a secluded snowbound house. Empire of Shadows by Jacqueline Benson. This is the historical romance. It's adventurous, following an archaeologist and a hidden map. And then we have High Voltage by Chris and Jen Sudgen. And this one's another historical setting, but it leans more steampunk and sci-fi. I did have to pause for a moment, and then I realized, no, I think I know which one I wanted. I switched. I had one in mind, and I was like, no, 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 I actually want to keep it. I want to keep that title. And so that, it's one of those situations where you realize if you give yourself the option, and then if you don't like it, you realize the decision wasn't as hard as you thought. And so I'm going to be removing Empire of Shadows by Jacqueline Benson. I do want to read it. It seems really fun, even though it just seems really out of the box being a historical romance. I'm just a bit hesitant that it's might be too romance. And yeah, if it was deemed a historical fantasy or just historical fiction, historical adventure with a romantic subplot, but because the romance seems quite forward, I just don't know if you and I are going to vibe with it.
Yeah.
So I think the safer options are the Golden Age mystery and the steampunk sci-fi mystery.
Yeah. It is sad to get rid of the shocking element because when you said historical romance, I was like, "I'm sorry, what?
What?
What are we doing?" But I do understand the hesitancy surrounding the romance because as we know, fantasy romance just in general has not worked for us in the past. Doesn't mean it won't always, and that we can't find ones that we have loved, but it does make them a little bit more of a risk.
Indeed, it does. And now there were 4. We started with 12, and now we have 4 options, 2 recommended by Danny, 2 recommended by me. And now we're about to move into round 3, which will be another situation where we're going to have to pause and allow ourselves to deliberate, because this is going to also have some math involved, some points involved. What we're going to do is with these 4 titles, both Danny and I are going to go to our separate corners. We're not going to talk, and we are going to rank these 4 titles 1 through 4. And then each of those numbers is going to have a certain point value. So if it got my number 1 spot, it's going to earn 4 points. My number 2 spot is going to earn 3. My number 3 spot is going to earn 2. My number 4 spot is going to earn 1. And then when we come together, my list and Danny's list will each have different point values. And hopefully there is one title that has more points than the rest, so we don't have to deal with a tiebreaker of sorts. I don't know what we would do in that moment, but we'll deal with it if it comes. And that's pretty much what we're going to do, friends. And so if you want to at home make your own ranking and see if you agree with either myself or Danny or the big deciding factor in the end of the points, then feel free, play at home. But we'll be back once we decide our lineup, what we're ranking number 1 all the way to number 4.
We are back from our collaboration, well, not even collaboration because we don't know what each other's lists look like.
No, we don't.
We have been struggling, friends, to rank these books because we are very excited about all of them. And we have come up with a tiebreaker because we are a little worried about whether or not we're going to have a tie. So if a tie does happen, what we will do is a random number generator between 1 to 100. And if it ends up being an odd number that comes up, we'll have our first choice. An even number will end up being the second choice, or vice versa, whatever. We'll decide if that comes to be. But these are blind, so we're going to give each other the rankings. And I think we should do every other. What do you think? Like give each other the 4th option and then the 3rd option, and then what do you think?
Yeah, sure. I guess, yeah, honestly, that will add to the tension tenfold, and maybe we can do the math as we go. I feel like that might be the easiest way. Okay, sounds good. Do you want to start off with your number 4, or shall I?
I'll go first. I'll rip off the
Okay.
Band-Aid. This it did make me, like, kind of cringe as I was putting these in order, and I kept thinking about, I wanna change. What can I do? Like, "Oh, maybe I wanna do this." This was hard. So, my number 4 option, the book of
Mhm.
mine, or the book of ours, of the 4 that we have, that I'm giving 1 point, is High Voltage. That's my number 4 option.
Okay. All right. Interesting. My number 4 option is the Cybernetic Tea Shop. I realized it looks like it's a novella, and so I didn't know if there was enough to go into it. So that was my choice for number 4. That's why. So that gets 1 point from me.
That is my 3rd option, is the Cybernetic Tea Shop, so that one gets 2 points from me.
Ooh. And very clearly, not going to be the book we read. All right. My number 3 option is going to be High Voltage.
That's interesting. We just flip-flopped our 3 and 4.
We really did, meaning that we do actually still have a chance to have a tie break be forced, depending on what you gave and what I gave. Because we know that the first 2 we just mentioned, they're not in the running. They can't win. The 2 we haven't mentioned, they're going to be our 1 and 2. We just don't know if we've agreed on 1 and 2.
Oh,
Oh God. Okay.
my number 2 option is the Sittaford Mystery. So that's the book I will be giving 3 points.
All right.
Or Stittaford. Stittaford. I said that wrong.
The Stitford, the
Is it Stittford
Sittaford.
or
Yes.
Stittaford?
No, you're right. It's the Sittaford. I just made me laugh. Okay, interesting. So now this is the reveal. Do we agree? Did we both put the Sittaford Mystery at number 2, or is this just obviously going to be a tie break? Well, well, well. My number 2 option is Ancillary Justice. Oh no! The first time we've done this recorded, and we're obviously going to have a tie break.
Oh my. So that leaves Ancillary Justice for my number 1 option, which means
The Sittaford Mystery is my number 1 option. I
the
do
both
like that we went with, if anything, and I don't know how much this went into our thoughts, but our top 2s, at least, were both wintry in a way. Like, they
yeah.
both involve winter, which is interesting. And they're both books that we're obviously very interested in, but we are going to have to leave it up to chance.
Yeah. That's crazy. This did not happen. So you guys didn't get to see our discussion about the book for October, but there was a very clear winner in that list. So it's very interesting to see us have very similar thoughts in so much, I guess, similar, but like in a detrimental way, in the fact that we flip-flopped things and now we have a tie.
Right, similar enough, but different enough where it's put a wrench in things. So what we're gonna have to do is a random number generator, and we're gonna do it 1 through 100, which sounds dramatic, but the way we're gonna do it is that we're gonna assign odd to one title, even to another, and figure out whatever number comes up. If it's an odd, we're gonna read A. If it's an even, we're gonna read B. And how about we just go with Ancillary Justice will be odds, and Sittaford Mystery will be evens.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Do you want to do the honors, or shall I?
Sure, I'll do it.
Ooh, exciting. Then you get to reveal what the number is to me.
I do. I'm going to know the answer first.
You are.
Number 62. So what did you
I can't
say?
remember. What was it? What did I say? I think, did I say Sittaford Mystery is odd? Oh, no. I said Ancillary Justice is odd. Sittaford Mystery is even. So we're reading an Agatha Christie.
That's crazy.
Oh my goodness, friends. That was a roller coaster. Not sure if you were prepared for this episode, but the ups and the downs. And we're definitely going to keep an eye on Ancillary Justice because
Mhm.
obviously the two of us really want to read it. If you were really excited about that title or any of the other titles that didn't win, be sure to let us know so we can also keep it in mind as we're returning to titles, trying to figure out if we haven't gotten to it yet. But for now, December 2025, we are going to be reading the Sittaford Mystery by Agatha Christie, originally published in 1931. A wintry mystery, so perfect for the season. Be sure to put your holds in, check your charity shop, local bookstore if you can get a secondhand copy. What's really nice is that this should be pretty accessible, which is great just because it's been published for so many years. There are so many editions out there. So hopefully a lot of us can get the book in time. Danny, how are you feeling about this option? Are you excited or are you just kind of like, fine, Leandra, I'll read your Agatha Christie?
I'm excited because we've never read a Christie together. And
You're
so I
right.
think that's going to be fun and I'm a little nervous, a little intimidated to read a Christie with someone who has read so much of her canon, but I'm also very excited because I do find in the Christies that I have read, I've only read 3 at this point in time, I find her writing very nostalgic for me. It's very cozy. I think it's going to be perfect for winter months.
I agree. And it's a bit of a transitional book because there's the mention of a seance. So it will
Oh,
have a
good.
nice kind of ephemeral feel to us leaving autumn and entering winter. So it might be a good transitional book in the end. But again, we're not reading it until December. And we've got all of November to continue with bookish discussions every single Friday. So you've got time, we've got time. And we hope to see you all next week, next Friday, when we have another bookish discussion. Thanks, everybody. And until then, happy reading.